Welcome to Whiskey Cast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1122 for August 17th, 2025. Coming up in a few minutes.
We've really gone from this teeny thing that was supposed to kind of be a family passion project to more of a sizable company. And like I said, we're running around the clock, making whiskey as fast as we can.
Iowa's Cedar Ridge Distillery is celebrating its 20th anniversary this weekend, and the Quint family is making waves in both bourbon and American single malt. I'll talk with master distiller and blender Murphy Quint later on Whiskey Cast in depth. I'll also have tasting notes for their 20th anniversary bourbon in the What I'm Tasting This Week department, and we'll have behind the label and much more too. The news is next on this week's Whiskey Cast. Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Hey, it's Gabriel from Dewar's Whiskey. Here's a quick tip. Whenever you're pouring great whiskey, especially something like Dewar's 12-year, don't overthink it. All you need is a few glasses and a couple of people worth sharing it with. The rest takes care of itself. Back in a bit.
Let's get started with the week's news. It's brought to you by the Dalmore. As expected, a Tennessee federal judge has ordered Uncle Nearest into receivership after the distillery defaulted on $108 million in loans. The judge gave lawyers for Uncle Nearest and its primary lender until this Wednesday to name their preferred receivership teams, and he'll pick one after that. What's not clear is the future for Uncle Nearest CEO Fawn Weaver under the receivership. Even though the judge issued a gag order barring both sides from talking about the case, she posted a video on Instagram this week. Here's the unedited audio from that post.
What the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good. Y'all know I'm under a gag order because so many have reported it, but here's what I know I can say. 2 points, and make sure to share this since lies tend to spread faster than the truth. Number 1, keep clearing the shelves. Every bottle you move tells our distributors and partners the same thing. We've built one of the strongest and most resilient brands in American history. Number 2, don't believe the fake news. Some reports claim I no longer own Uncle Nearest, that I'm not running it. Let me be clear. I built this company, I own this company, I run this company. And my leadership team, who have all been with me for 6 to 8 years, are right here building alongside me. Our team remains unshaken and unmoved. If that ever changes, you'll hear it directly from me, and I know you will respond accordingly. All major challenges are inevitable in ownership. That's why so many tap out. And my number 1 piece of advice to would-be entrepreneurs is, if you are of the quitting kind, don't start, because entrepreneurialism will give you 100 reasons a day to quit. But strong leadership doesn't panic. It keeps a steady hand and moves forward. From the start, I've shared the ups and downs of building Uncle Nearest. That transparency is a part of my calling. That is what built one of the strongest brand communities in American history. That's why they call me the People CEO, because I don't just show the gloss. I show the grind, the grit, the gunk. All right, we got those 2 points out of the way. Let's get to the fun part. What y'all are doing across the country. In a year where spirits are down, we're moving in the opposite direction, and we have been for the past year. Illinois, y'all are up 216% this month, 21% year to date. South Dakota, you are up 107%. Florida, 92% this month, 24% year to date. South Carolina, you are up 53% year to date and 48% this month. Texas, you are your own country, and your country is up 44% this month, 34% year to date. Nevada, you're up 38%. New Mexico, you are up 32% this month and 22% year to date. Georgia, you are up 53% year to date, 31% this month. Maryland, you are up 49% for the year and 30% this month. Wisconsin, you are up 25%. Michigan, 29%. Louisiana, 26%. Arkansas, 23%. Delaware, 22%. Tennessee and New Jersey, you are both you're almost up 20% in the control states. Y'all are blowing my mind. Your numbers are even before we started clearing the shelves. Virginia, you were already at 54%. Mississippi, you were already up 46%. Montgomery County, you were already up 47%. Utah, 20%. Alabama, roll, tide, roll. You were up 30%. Ohio, up 38%. North Carolina, up 30%. Nebraska and Oklahoma, up 16%. West Virginia, up 12%. And I don't know what's going on in Alaska, but y'all are up 423% this month, 44% for the year. When the shelves restock, don't forget, keep clearing them out. Leave no doubt. Send a loud message that you are behind this brand and the team that built it. Cheers.
Weaver and her husband Keith, who is the CEO of Nearest Green Distillery, are reportedly trying to find another lender to buy the outstanding loan. And the lender who filed the lawsuit wants them to stay involved with the marketing of the brand. We'll have updates on this story as more news happens. The sales gains for Uncle Nearest come at a time when Americans are drinking less. That's according to the Gallup poll, which surveys Americans on their consumption habits every July. 54% of those surveyed this year drink alcoholic beverages, and that's the lowest number Gallup has found since starting the survey in 1939. It represents an 8% decline since 2023. Back then, the percentage of men and women who drink was equal at 62%, but women appear to be moving away from alcohol use at a much higher rate than men are. The percentage of women who drink is down 11% from 2023, compared to just 5% for men. In 2023, just 39% said moderate drinking was bad for your health. That percentage has now climbed to 53%. It's the first time a majority of Americans has held that view. And in a sign that the trend may continue long-term, 2 out of 3 people aged 18 to 34 hold that view. Those who drink are also drinking less. The average American had 2.8 drinks in the last 7 days in this year's poll, compared to 4 drinks in 2023. In other news, the Lakes Distillery is getting a new whiskey maker. Sarah Burgess is leaving to return to Scotland for a new opportunity, and she's being succeeded by former Diageo and Ardbeg whiskey maker Brendan McCarran. Brendan has been running his own consultancy for the last couple of years, after leaving Distell's operations at Tobermory, Deanston, and Bunnahabhain. No word yet on where Sarah Burgess is headed. Isle of Harris Distillers Managing Director Simon Erlanger is retiring after 14 years with the company. He oversaw construction of the distillery and the launch of the Heartland single malt. Executive Chairman Ron McEachran will oversee operations for the foreseeable future. Woodford Reserve has released malt whiskies in the past as part of its Masters Collection series, but now the distillery is releasing its first American single malt. The 12-year-old whiskey was matured in used oak barrels and is the latest release in Woodford's Distillery series of experimental whiskeys. It'll sell for $99.99 a bottle at the distillery, select Kentucky retailers, and through Woodford's online shop. Single Cask Nation is releasing 2 new American single malts and a rye whiskey in its latest series of whiskeys. The 4- and 5-year-old single malts come from Balcones and Cedar Ridge, while the 10-year-old rye comes from the New York Distilling Company. Pricing ranges from $80 for the malts to $100 a bottle for the rye. Coors Whiskey Company is teaming up with country music star Lainey Wilson for a special edition of its Barman 1873 bourbon. The new whiskey is timed to coincide with the start of Wilson's latest U.S. tour and will be available in cities hosting Wilson's concerts, including Nashville, Dallas, Denver, Chicago, and Tampa, just to name a few. There's no word on pricing. Scotland's Glen Scotia Distillery is unveiling a new 12-year-old Campbellton single malt. The whiskey was matured in first fill ex-bourbon barrels and bottled at 46% ABV. It's available exclusively through the Glen Scotia website, at the distillery in Campbellton, and through the whiskey shop in the UK for £45 a bottle. Buffalo Trace is building a new cafe on the distillery grounds. The John G. Carlisle Cafe honors the former U.S. Congressman who played a critical role in the passage of the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897. He also had one of Colonel E.H. Taylor's distilleries at the OFC distillery site named in his honor. The new cafe will open next spring. And finally, congratulations to our friends at Bourbon Pursuit and Pursuit Spirits. Kenny Coleman and Ryan Cecil opened their tasting room on Louisville's Whiskey Row this week. complete with a cocktail lounge and a studio for recording the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. You can keep up with the latest whiskey news all week long at whiskycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. The news is brought to you by the Dalmore.
Hello, Richard Patterson here, Master Distiller, Master Blender for the Dalmore. You know, whenever the team and I are in the world sharing our exceptional single malt, we like to keep in touch with Mark Gillespie and the latest news from WhiskyCast.
Let's check the calendar and see what's happening around the world of whiskey. Jim Beam has its annual open day at the distillery in Claremont, Kentucky this Saturday to celebrate founder Colonel James B. Beam's birthday, complete with free samples, live music, and more. The American Whiskey Show also takes place this Saturday in Sydney, Australia. The American Distilling Institute has its annual Craft Spirits Conference on the 25th and 26th in San Antonio, Texas. And the Whiskey Exchange has a World Whiskies tasting on the 25th at its London Bridge shop in London. We'll have special coverage from the Kentucky Bourbon Festival the weekend of September 5th through the 7th. And the Maltstock Whiskey Weekend is September 12th through the 14th in Nijmegen, the Netherlands. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at whiskycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app.
Throughout the years, Dewar's has created some incredible whiskeys, but our new Dewar's 12-year-old, that one's a personal favorite. It's the kind of scotch that earns praise from the pros, but still feels right at home in the middle of a good night with friends. Every pour opens up with notes of vanilla, toffee, baking spice, and a smooth oak finish. It's rich, it's approachable, and it has a way of bringing people together. Whether it's around the table, the fireplace, or just wherever the night happens to take you. Look, the glasses may hold the whiskey, but the whiskey, that's what holds the moment. Please enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025, Dewar's is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume.
This weekend, Iowa's Cedar Ridge Distillery is celebrating the 20th anniversary of receiving its distilling license. Jeff and Lori Quint started out making wine, and that tradition plays out today in Cedar Ridge's wine cask finishes. Their son Murphy joined the family business in 2014, and he's now the head distiller for what has become an award-winning distillery. They won the World Whiskies Award for Best American Single Malt last year, and are releasing a 20th anniversary bourbon this weekend to mark the anniversary. Murphy Quint joined me on a Zoom call the other day. So 20 years, did you think it would ever get to this point?
No, I guess I never, assumed that it would get to this point, or at least I never assumed that it would look like it looks now. When we started 20 years ago, it was just this very small family thing. And to imagine that we would evolve into a, fairly sizable distillery with an amazing staff like we have, that would not have been something that we originally envisioned.
Tell me how the distillery has grown over the years from the mom and pop operation your parents put together back in 2003 originally. Yeah,
well, so when we got started back then, we were literally a garage winery and distillery. There was, in the state of Iowa back then, if you had a tasting room at your winery or distillery, you could not legally sell the product out the door. You had to send someone to a nearby liquor store to acquire the product. And so my parents strategically opened up in a garage that was rented out at a liquor store so that, we could have our operation there. And then when people came in and saw what we're doing and tried it, we could just send them to the other side of the building where they could acquire the product. So we were this very small thing in a garage. When it came to our, distillation, we had our first ever Carl pot still. I think it was, like 20 or 30 gallons. Just insanely small. And, now we are no longer in a garage. We're on about a 75 acre campus. We run around the clock. We have an 800 gallon alpha still, a 200 gallon finishing pot still. And, we've got about 6 different rick houses out here and a staff of over 50 people. So, I mean, we've really gone from this teeny thing that was supposed to kind of be a family passion project to more of a sizable company. And like I said, we're running around the clock, making whiskey as fast as we can.
And you started making American single malt back when it wasn't a thing.
Yes, this is correct. We were one of a handful of distillers in the United States producing single malt just kind of because we were whiskey fans and it was fun. It was fun to kind of lose focus and give bourbon a break for a second and make some fun single malt to have on the side. And it was just something that we were passionate about. That was well before we, had the vision of this being a category, or well before we even got on board with what the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission was working on. So yeah, it was just kind of this fun little side project we were doing. And obviously our passion for that really grew. And, every year we kind of doubled down on the category and eventually got involved with the commission, and the rest is history.
What do you see as the growth for American single malt going forward?
I think, there's a lot of positive momentum right now because the category is finally recognized by the TTB, and that's huge. That's going to create some really good momentum in the sense that, liquor stores are going to have American single malt signage and sections and stuff like that. So consumers know where to go to look for it, which had been a huge problem because it kept getting shoved in, the bourbon section or the Scotch section or the other section. And so there's some really good positive momentum on that front. However, that positive momentum comes at a time where the whiskey landscape in the United States of America is a little bit complicated and muddled. So there's positive momentum, but it's not going to be without some speed bumps. I think that, 10, 15 years from now, I think this category is very successful, not only in the United States, but globally. Single malt is a global category, whereas bourbon is very specific to the United States. And I do think that eventually America will be competing on a global scale. I do think that over the next 5 to 15 years, though, there's going to be many ups and downs along the way just due to market saturation and distributor consolidation.
You talked about market uncertainty. I think that's putting it mildly these days.
Yes. I've been doing this pretty much my entire adult life. This is about the only industry I've ever worked in, at least a substantial amount. And I have never seen a more uncertain time. And there's a number of factors coming into that. Once again, the slightly oversaturation. I mean, going from just a handful of distilleries in the United States to having over 3,000. And that was over the course of about 20 years that boom happened. And while that's happening, it's something that a lot of consumers don't really understand is while there's this boom in distilleries coming online and producing, the number of distributors has shrunk massively because they keep kind of merging and acquiring each other. And so what that's done is it's created a massive beginning of the funnel and an extremely tight end of the funnel to get to market. And so where this is all going is actually very, very hard to predict right now. And the reason why that's so complicated is because we work in a very long-term business. For example, the stuff that I'm working on right now and my operations team is working on, it has very little to do with year 2025. I mean, the stuff that we are working on is for year 2030 and beyond. And what is so complicated about that is forecasting, aka guessing, how much we should be producing down the road when we have no idea what down the road looks like due to the current market landscape.
Do you see a shakeout coming among small distilleries?
Shakeout in what sense?
Going out of business.
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, and I hate talking about that because I'm on the board of directors with American Craft Spirits Association. I'm very active in the community, and many of my best friends work in this business. So it is hard for me to really dive into that. But yeah, I mean, I think that just basic economics tells you that is going to be the case. I mean, there's been a massive boom of distilleries coming online. And, while the number of DSPs is finally going down slightly, there are still new ones coming online, and it's getting more complicated to succeed. So I would be very surprised if, over the next 1 to 10 years, we didn't see a fairly consistent decline in DSPs. There are things that could change that. I mean, for instance, if some lobbying happened around direct-to-consumer sales and things of that nature, it'd become more feasible for distilleries to make it in the modern-day market. But in the current landscape, yes, I think that it's fairly obvious to me that there is going to be a number of distilleries going out of business for multiple reasons, yes.
Including the tariffs.
Tariffs are definitely a huge part of it. I mean, there's kind of a big three there, and there's tariffs, and there's distributor consolidation, and then once again saturation. And I'll give an honorable mention to rising costs. I mean, all those things are just enormously impactful to our industry, especially the smaller distilleries. I mean, there are a handful of distilleries over the last 20 years who have kind of built something sizable where they can overcome some of these headaches that we're dealing with, and I think Cedar Ridge is fairly fortunate to be at the point where we can navigate through it a little bit. I mean, but if this was all happening when we were our 2010 version, we probably wouldn't be able to survive it. It's a lot to be able to handle when you've got a ton of overhead and you haven't really established your brand in the marketplace yet. So yeah, there's a lot of complications going on, and tariffs are definitely one of them.
How important is the Iowa market to you? You guys outsell Jim Beam and everybody else in bourbon in the market. How important is that market to you? I couldn't possibly emphasize enough how important the Iowa market is to us. So we have done something that no other distillery has done, and we're extremely fortunate to be in this position. And that's we have become the number one selling bourbon in our state. And I always preface with that doesn't sound overly impressive at first thought, but when you phrase it differently, it does. In 49 states, Kentucky bourbon is the number one seller, and then in the state of Iowa, there is Cedar Ridge, who is the number one seller. So in the 750 milliliter category, we outsell anyone else, and it's this huge thing. The reason why it is so huge is because it has created a foundation that we can build off of. We can take some risks trying to establish our brand in other markets, whether they be the surrounding states or even, some bigger areas, bigger markets, say New York, California, Texas. We can take some risks in those markets, knowing that if we don't succeed and all else fails, we at least can come back to our safety net of Iowa. So from a strategy standpoint, it's everything. And the loyalty that Iowans have showed us has been incredible. And, without that, we certainly wouldn't be operating the way that we are now. We probably wouldn't even be in business. Tell me about the 20th anniversary bourbon.
All right. Yes, the 20th anniversary bourbon. So this has been a really fun project to work on. And what it is meant to do is to represent kind of our roots and also what we've evolved into. So really the entire 20-year history of Cedar Ridge is kind of baked into the concept of this particular product. And so what we wanted to do in order to make that all happen is we knew that we wanted kind of our big three to be represented in it. And that's our bourbon, our wine, and our single malt. Like all three of those things are represented in this one anniversary bourbon. So I'll back up on that. This product is our bourbon that has been finished in a number of different wine casks. And then it is a blend of those wine casks, very similar to how we do our quintessential single malt special releases, which have gained a lot of traction. And so once again, bourbon in several different finishing casks, all wine-based, and then blended together to create something complex and that hasn't really been out on the market yet. So the concept in general is just to represent where we started all the way to where we're at now. And I'm really hoping people enjoy it.
What are you working on now?
I'm working on a few different things right now. Right now in particular is very complicated because it's August, and August is, for our company at least, it is basically the beginning of the end of the year. You close your eyes and the year is over, because starting August 1st, things just move so incredibly fast. You can't even catch your breath. We are getting ready to go into grape harvest, which is a huge undertaking and really kind of jams up our schedule. And we're doing a few big contract projects at the same time. But under our own brand, a blend, a project that I'm working on that I'd love people to know about is our next quintessential special release. So we're releasing one of these a year right now. We've done 5 total. And this next one that will get released. It will not come out to 2026, but I mean, they take a solid 6 to 8 months for me to blend them and to get them balanced and complex, and most importantly, integrated, so that all these different casks, they kind of meld together to become one whiskey rather than several different flavor profiles all jammed into one thing, where it kind of comes off as confused and muddled. Like I said, it takes about 6 to 8 months, and so this will come out mid next year. But I'm really, really excited about the base that I've created for the flavor profile so far, and hopefully it comes together well for our 2026 release.
How did you learn to blend?
Yeah, how did I learn how to blend? I think whether it's popular or not, as far as the response goes, I think a lot of things that I've learned in this industry have come from doing things the wrong way and learning out how to get to the right way. So I would say that, I learned how to blend by blending over specifically the last, we'll say 7 years. And I would say that, some of the stuff that I was doing early on is kind of my first blends. I am proud of them. They are good, but I think they're very mediocre compared to the stuff that I'm working on now. And so, like anything else, I think that it is just a skill set that I've sharpened over time. I've learned how to, find success from failure, essentially, and modifying accordingly. But one thing that I have had at an advantage that I've had that others don't have is a very unique playground to operate on. And it's been this fortunate advantage that I've had. We have several hundred different finishing casks on our property, both for bourbon, single malt, and even rye. And so I've had these kind of at my disposal over the last handful of years, and I'm constantly checking in on them, tasting the flavors, and then doing small micro blends together to see how they react and things of that nature. So that's not something that every distillery in the country or even the world has at their disposal, is all these different casks to work with. And the fact that I have has definitely expedited my process at honing these skills in on the blending front. So I've definitely learned the hard way, but I've also learned from just having a unique playground to operate on here at Cedar Ridge.
What are you going to define success as over the next 5 to 10 years?
I guess I can give you a range. Over the next 5 to 10 years, I think a huge success factor for pretty much any distillery any distillery operating in the United States is going to be to just make it. Over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be very complicated for any distillery to survive the way that our industry is heading with that saturation and distributor consolidation. So just kind of making it would be the floor, but I obviously want to expand distribution reach. That's something that's going to be very important for us and something that is really hard to do right now. But possibly even more importantly than that, I want to maintain the team that we have. If we 5 to 10 years from right now, maintain the team that we have currently and added a few people to it, that would be a huge success factor. And the reason that I say that is that the team that we have right now is responsible for building what we have done so far. They've all been instrumental in our success in developing the brand that we have, and keeping all those very important and talented people here to continue doing that job is incredibly important to us.
You'll find a link to the Cedar Ridge website in the show notes for this episode at whiskeycast.com. And thanks to Murphy Quint for joining us this week on WhiskeyCast In Depth. Let's start off the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the Cedar Ridge 20th Anniversary Bourbon. It's finished in a combination of Tokai, Ruby Port, Amontillado Sherry, and Virgin American Oak casks, and it's bottled at 55% ABV. The nose is aromatic with touches of dark fruits, baking spices, red wine, honey, and vanilla. The taste has a nice balance of spiciness and fruity character, with black pepper, clove, and allspice notes, balanced by plums, raisins, apricots, red grapes, and honey, while the finish is long and balanced nicely between spices and fruits. It's an excellent way to celebrate 20 years at Cedar Ridge, and I'm scoring their 20th Anniversary Bourbon a 94. Washington's Woodinville Distillery will celebrate its 15th anniversary this coming weekend with the release of their oldest whiskey ever, a 9-year-old bourbon. I received a sample the other day, and it's bottled at 50% ABV. The nose has notes of vanilla, caramel, oak tannins, leather, pipe tobacco, and baking chocolate. The taste is full of cinnamon and black pepper complemented by dark chocolate, caramel, cherries, and honey, and the finish is long, dry, and spicy. I'm scoring the Woodinville 9-year-old bourbon a 93. Finally, Indiana's Hard Truth Distilling has released a sweet mash bourbon finished in toasted Mizunara oak casks. The barrel finish reserve is bottled at 62.35% ABV, and the nose has touches of sandalwood, pine sap, toasted oak, honey, and vanilla. The taste has spicy notes of black pepper and cinnamon spice, balanced by sandalwood, pine needles, toasted oak, honey, and caramel. The finish is long and mouth-tingling, and I'm scoring Hard Truth's Toasted Mizunara Oak Finish Bourbon a 93. I'll be adding these whiskeys to our searchable list of more than 3,900 different whiskeys from all over the world. Check it out this week at whiskycast.com. Japanese whiskey began with Shinjiro Tori's vision to reflect the true nature and spirit of Japan. The House of Suntory was founded on these principles, guided by generations of craftsmanship that have transformed time, nature, and precision into something greater than the sum of its parts. Pure waters from the mountains of Hakushu, Mizunara oak shaped by decades of patience, a blending philosophy rooted in harmony. These aren't just techniques, they're a way of thinking, a quiet pursuit of balance and depth. From the layered complexity of Yamazaki to the crisp vibrancy of Hakushu and the elegant artistry of Hibiki, every whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from and the hands that shape it. House of Suntory. This is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Let's open up the inbox now and see what people are talking about this week in our community segment. As you might expect, the Uncle Nearest receivership dominated the conversation in the WhiskeyCast community app this week. Rick at the Whiskey Zone posted this comment: "That's interesting that the lenders would want them to remain the face. I can only imagine the questions at the next tasting will be somewhat uncomfortable." Alan Chanel added this: "They've been brilliant at growing the brand. It would seem wrong to demand them to separate from the brand. Confirming the inventory and finances are aligned to pay the due bills is a different operational ability which seems to need fixing, and they've at least temporarily lost the opportunity to handle that part. Interesting to see where they'll be in 3 years, and I wish them the best." Bill Ricker had this comment: "If the financial wrongdoing was as counter-alleged to the doing of the ex-CFO, keeping Fawn on as marketing officer but having a receiver manage the finances actually makes sense for all parties. If they can grow out of this together, the lenders and Nearest and Fawn might emerge whole. Otherwise, the lawyers will get whatever cash is available, and both Fawn and lenders get crumbs eventually. Not to mention Fawn's investors. According to court documents, investors have pumped another $225 million into Uncle Nearest, on top of the $108 million in loans." And HRC had this to say: "Hope it was truly a cash flow problem only, and they come out of this in a way that preserves Uncle Nearest. A great American story supported by solid whiskey, and at least in my travels, it really seems to be on back bars all over the country." What's your take? Download the free WhiskeyCast community app from your app store and join the conversation. You can also share your opinions with us on social media. Look for WhiskeyCast on X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the science, history, and people who make whiskey unique. For centuries, spent grains left over from the mashing process have largely been used for cattle feed. Now a new project could turn spent grains into sustainable packaging. The folks at Scotland's Ardbeg Distillery have teamed up with researchers at Edinburgh Napier University and the University of Dundee to create Mycopac. It uses mycelium, the root structure of fungi, along with spent grains and other distillery byproducts, and the result is packaging material that is impact-resistant, fire-retardant, and still fully compostable. The team has received seed funding from Scotland Beyond Net Zero and will spend the next 10 months proving their concept. If you have something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this episode of Whiskey Cast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskeycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, and a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Get in touch with us, download the free Whiskey Cast community app from your app store, or find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, X, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook at WhiskeyCast, and our email address is comments@whiskeycast.com.
There's something special about opening a bottle of Dewar's 12 Year with the people who matter most. It brings out the stories, the laughter, and the kind of moments you don't plan, but never forget. Built on tradition, made for right now, and best when shared. Dewar's 12-Year-Old.
Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory. This is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Whiskey Cast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2025, and comes to you from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening.